here we go. We're gonna jump into episode 18. Just imagine that, man. We're gonna finally end the Hydra Cap segments. I know y'all tired of me geeking out. In the health segment, we talk about meditation. Yes, it does work. Check it out. And then in how to approach women, your favorite segment, don't be creepy. Also, fuck Malachi York. We talk a little bit more about Zulu. We do a little bit more hip hop snobbery. You know, I'll talk about Eminem again. And we talk about Biggie and how he should not be considered the GOAT. And then I take it back about pages and stuff like that. So, and no blackface for Halloween. Word is born. Check it out.
I like the rhymes.
All of us are born with the miraculous ability to determine the direction from which sounds approach us.
Let us venture into new and uncharted land.
People get shook up, you know, when I'm introduced as God.
You got that good hair, too.
You're the first one out there with a dashiki talking that crap.
It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
I pull up, hop out, air out, made it look sexy. They won't take me out my element, nah, take me out my element.
For this week's episode, don't hate me, man. I'm sipping on this grape and vine, Cabernet. This hopefully is good. I'm gonna try it in a second. But yeah, man, it's been a slow drinking season, man. I need to get back on that so I can hit y'all up. But yeah, man, grape and vine, I think is like, I know it came from Aldi's, man. Aldi's be represented on the health food work. Yo, real quick, it's 2017, and like, I still run into people that big up Dr. Malachi. Fuck that, he ain't no doctor. They big up Malachi York. Like, cats still defend that dude. Like, oh, he didn't do it. It's a government conspiracy. He didn't molest those kids. Yo, he molested those kids. If you want, you can believe what you want. Here's how I know he molested them kids. Not because I know some of his victims, because I do know some of his victims. It's because most of the time when people, I'm not even going to say it like that. I'm going to say usually when someone states that they were assaulted by somebody else sexually, it's usually true. And here's the thing about molestation. It usually happens from somebody you know, not from a total stranger in the middle of the street, right? It doesn't usually happen when somebody's snatching you up out of a store. Usually somebody in your immediate family, somebody you know and trust that does it. So all that shit about he's innocent is not. He's guilty. Hope he rots in jail.
Lord of mercy, all night Sundays and crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night Sundays and crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night Sundays and crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night Sundays and crew. Follow me now.
Also, more on hip hop snobbery. I noticed that a lot of people do this. They say like, yo, I pop lock, son. You taking it old school. First of all, there's no such thing as pop locking or pop lock. There's popping and there's locking, right? There's no pop lock, no such thing, or lock pop or whatever the fuck y'all say. There's popping and locking. A good joint to get if you get a DVD, The Freshest Kids. And there's a scene where they actually explain to you what popping is and what locking is and all that. So locking is the stuff that you remember Fred Berry, a.k.a. Rerun, used to do. That's locking. You know, popping is that other stuff that people do when they wave their arms and they limbs and stuff like that in their body, right? So, yeah, like, that's popping. And then locking is what Fred Berry did. Rest in peace to Fred Berry, yo. That was a good brother, man. I met him several times, and he was always mad, cool, and open. Word. Go ahead and continue our discussion about, you know, Africa Bambaataa, UZN, Zulu, Universal Zulu Nation. So when we say Zulu, I mean Universal Zulu Nation. So again, we discussed last episode about how kind of like there was always these allegations about Africa Bambaataa, about Bam, about what he was doing. There were rumors, but nobody ever came out. Again, we all knew that Bam was gay. Like, if you was in Zulu, you knew that. But I'm going to go ahead and answer the question as to why I left Zulu. Because just think about it. If you're in an organization and a high-ranking official in that organization does something wrong, you don't usually quit because of that person, right? Because, you know, people do bad things, right? There's some people that do bad things. You can't control that. You have no control over what somebody else does. But the reason why I went over the structure of Zulu last episode was because they are the reason, when I talked about the World Council, they're the reason why I left Zulu. It wasn't because of what Bam did. Now, don't get me wrong, I was disgusted in realizing why Bam did what he did. And even though he had a big impact on my life, a positive one. But what was going on was there were people that were being paid off with the money that members of Zulu provided. So, every year you donate money to Zulu, that goes to headquarters. If you make any kind of money, a percentage of that money goes to Zulu. A lot of us make, other contributions to Zulu. So that money doesn't appear out of thin air. That's not money that like Bam earns. That's money that Zulu Nation raised. So literally they were taking our money and paying people off with that. So that was like the first thing that really like bothered me. Second, when Poppy's testimony came out on Star, what's his name? Is it on Star's radio show? He mentioned a lot of names of people that I knew, people that I worked for, that I take orders from, and a lot of us took orders from, that were involved in these payoffs. They were involved in sending goons to people's houses, and I realized that it wasn't a situation where one member of the organization is committing crimes and hurting people, is that there are other members of that said organization that enabled him, protected him, and swept things under the rug. So I'm taking orders from these people. Like, again, Bam doesn't really run Zulu, but I'm taking orders from these people that he was mentioning, and they're the ones that are doing this. So I really just couldn't be a part of an organization that did that, right? Again, there are going to be people in every organization who are bad, right? And that one person is going to do something wrong. But if everybody else is covering it up, lying, doing whatever they can to protect that person, then that's a problem that's endemic within that organization. So honestly, and it's funny because I talk about this all the time, how they hold you to a particular standard that they don't follow themselves, right? So we have to be honest with what we do with our chapters. We have to be honest about the money and what we're doing with that money, because we're under the Zulu banner, but yet we're held to that standard and you don't follow that standard. So that's the reason why I left. And finally, like I talked about last episode, I realized why those factions in Zulu that were violent were allowed to thrive, and it's because it was to protect Bam. So that was like really the reasons why I left Zulu. So next week, I'm going to get more in depth with it and what it did to me on a personal level. So thank you again for bearing with me. I hope you didn't just walk in on something and get hit. So there you go. And no matter how much you say it, how much we revisit this argument. Actually, it's not an argument. It's a discussion. Not even a discussion, right? It shouldn't be a discussion in 2017, right? But no matter how many times we say it, no matter how many times we bust them out, people lose their jobs or or have to resign or get demoted or get fined, white folks still dress in blackface. Yo. Bruh, come on, man. Blackface is wrong. There should be no reason why you should be doing it. Like, it shouldn't be on your mind. Right? It shouldn't be on your mind. Like, you could, if you want to dress up as your favorite rapper, then that's cool. Dress up as your favorite rapper. That's cool. That's fucking cool, right? just don't put any paint on your face. Just do it. Like, we'll figure this shit out. You know, we'll figure it out. Oh, that's supposed to be whatever, right? But just don't put any black paint on your face. Like, don't do it, man. Like, what do we got to do? Like, and I really think that, like, and I'm not a violent person, but I really think that, like, you need to give out, like, cards that say you can beat somebody down if they do blackface. I think that's the only way it's going to stop. Like, I think, like, if we hand out beat downs to people that do blackface, white people stop doing that shit. And that also goes for red face and yellow face too. Because white people do that shit too. They dress up as Native Americans with the red face. They were doing it in the Hollywoods in the 50s and 60s. They do yellow face, all that shit. Like, they should be a beat down for that too. So, like, word is born. I think that's the only way that's going to stop that. But, yo, no blackface, man. Come on, man. I'm a big Tribe fan, and I know that. I listen to them consistently. But damn, that last album, that Thank You For Your Service, yo, that shit is dope, yo. Like, yo, it's dope, yo. Like Fife, like, man, yo, it really makes you, like, I know I said like 20 times, my bad. You know, like, you think Fife, like, yo. And then, who was it? I was listening to a podcast, and it was saying that Fife had an album that he did before he died, and it was, like, really dope. Oh, it was Just Blaze. Just Blaze was talking about it. And Redman, the Redman interview with Just Blaze on whatchamacallit show, the Combat Jack show. Shout out to Combat Jack, by the way. And yeah, so he talked about it there, how he had an album coming out. But yo, the album was dope. Yo, go back and check that joint. That joint is mad dope. Busta kills it. The production is dope. Like, it's a dope album, man. Like, even Consequence gets open on that shit. Word. So, yo, let's get into Hydra Cap, right? All right, here we go. So, Secret Empire, Captain America and Secret Empire #0 sets up a lot of the New York-based superheroes, and they get stuck in New York by using this thing from a dark dimension to make New York covered in this, like, dark force field. And it makes everything dark and cold. Kind of reminds me of, like Cloak, like from Cloak and Dagger. And then, like, so the heroes are caught up just saving everyday people from stuff that's happening, evil demons and spirits and stuff like that. And they're fighting them there. So that's like maybe a third of the superheroes. All the really super hardcore, powerful heroes like Captain Marvel, Hyperion, Nova, and all of them, he actually traps in outer space by creating, what he does is he steals a queen egg from the Chitauri, and he leaves it on Earth. So the Chitauri sends waves of their drones to try to invade the Earth. And he seals the Earth in this force field that he had Tony Stark working on. And all those superpowered heroes are stuck outside the Earth fighting against the Chitauri. And then pretty much the rest of the heroes just fall back. Some of them join him, like Thor, the Vision. Like, some of them are like, yo, he's holding it down. So he takes over. So it's that part is interesting. Like, that part is interesting how Hydra Cap just takes over pretty much, like, and he does it like Hydra, right? He's real sneaky about it. He doesn't even have to lift a finger, to be honest. He has other people do his dirty work. He sets people up by tricking them. So, and Secret Empire 0 is actually dope. I like it. It's like a good setup. But then the rest of Secret Empire is kind of like bleh. And it's just, and yo, I like Nick Spencer. I'm not hating on Nick Spencer, but I just think that the execution of it was whack. And I think a lot of the Marvel crossovers, the premise, the idea is like dope, but then the execution is kind of whack. And I wish that, I'm not, I'm a writer, but I'm not like a professional. I don't make money off of it. Like, I'm not like you're a great writer. Like, I don't know how they could really fix it other than stop having all these crossovers. But I don't know. I don't know how they could fix that. But overall, I think Secret Empire was just like lackluster in a lot of things. People had several issues with it. I think I've only met a few people that liked it. Again, the premise is dope. And I can see things like that happening. We talked about how, somebody who's a soldier or warrior who's really has a lot of integrity and has some good ideas, how they can take over and just really like tear things up because that's not their lane. You know what I'm saying? They're not politicians. They just, when it comes to war, that's where they at. And when I look at Captain America, when in different situations that he's in, he's the man. Like, I remember when there was a situation with the Fantastic Four where they had to call on Galactus to help them save the Earth. And it's in that Fantastic Four, Jonathan Hickman run, and it's issue 600 to about 608, I believe, or 607. Good story. Check it out. And, Captain America shows up and, he knows what to do. He's just, during the Infinity War out in outer space, Captain America led all those empires to victory. Like, that's his thing when it comes to war. That's what he was bred for. He was bred to fight. But was he bred to lead like during peacetime? I don't know. Does he have the heart for it? Probably, but he's a warrior. He was built to fight. He was a super soldier. He wasn't super president or super politician or super mayor. He just, maybe he could be a mayor. Who knows? But that's just, I think that makes sense in the idea that he will become dictator of the United States and he would just suck at it, right? So there you go. Yo, shout out to my girl, Michelle. Yo, she brought this up, and I keep forgetting. Like, if you want to continue the conversation on Twitter or Instagram, I'm not on Facebook, so fuck Facebook for real. But if you want to continue the conversation, you could hashtag where my Killa tape at. And Killa is spelled Killa because the Wu-Tang is forever, right? So where my Killa tape at, you hashtag that. And, I'll find you, man. I'll find you. I'll check you out. I'll see what you got to say. Please do that. And I apologize for not bringing that up sooner. Word. This week in hip hop snobbery. But yo, a lot of cats were upset about my Eminem thing last episode when I talked about how Eminem is overrated. I'm gonna stick by that. There's no way you convince me of that. And check this out. Here's the crazy part. I was listening to an interview, and they were saying that even Eminem has said that Redman had a huge influence on his writing. I want to say it was the same Combat Jack show interview that I just discussed, where they talked about how Redman said like, yo, Eminem said he talks to Eminem all the time, and Eminem talks about how he influenced him. Yeah, it was Redman actually. Oh man, it was all coming back to me. But yeah, it was Redman himself who said that. So it's kind of wild to me how like a lot of people don't peep that. Like a lot of people don't peep that, and it's just like, again, I think a lot of it has to do with white privilege. You know what I'm saying? Like he's white, he gets a lot of passes. I think he's overrated. I mean, don't get me wrong. He comes from that school of fit as many syllables as I can within the most minimum amount of bars as possible. He comes from that school, which ain't nothing wrong with that. I just think that he never really write anything that I was like, yo, that shit is hard. Outside of the stuff that he did with Royce when he was on that one label, they used to have all those good looking girls on the cover of the 12 inches, right? 12-inch records, vinyl records, don't get it twisted. So I know a lot of people have issues with that. But another thing I want to talk about is, I know a lot of people are going to trip on this, but I don't think Biggie should be considered the GOAT. I know a lot of people are like, what the fuck? And I'm not saying, yo, Ready to Die is a classic album. Like, hands down, Ready to Die is dope. From beginning to end, it's dope. It's mad dope. I'm not even going to front. But I felt Life After Death, I felt it was overrated. And a lot of people gave it like I remember the Source gave it like 5. Back when the Source mattered, they gave him like 5 stars. And I kind of felt like they shouldn't have done it. They only did it because, I believe they only did it because he was murdered. But I don't think that, like, he has a catalog that'll make him the GOAT. And let me be honest with you, man. I know people get tripped when I say this. Like, that second album was alright. Don't get me wrong. There's some standout cuts. There's some cuts on the album that you're like, yo, that shit was hot. That shit was hot. Even as problematic as R. Kelly is, that shit with R. Kelly is dope, right? I'm not even gonna front, yo. Like, there's some joints in there that you're like, okay, but overall, like, a lot of that stuff is like fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. That being said, I believe that if he had come out with a third album, it would have been worse. And if he came out with a fourth album, it would have been worse. I think Biggie would have been one of those artists who start off hard and then just fall off. And a lot of it has to do with how Diddy, how he does his artists. He just, Biggie was a raw street cat who did raw shit. And they consistently talk about how him and Diddy had issues with what singles to put out first. And Diddy kind of was like, okay, like, for example, like Juicy. He didn't want to put out Juicy. So he wanted to put out Unbelievable, which was produced by Premier, I think. What ended up happening is they released Juicy, with Unbelievable as the B-side. That's just an example of how Biggie wanted to get down. Don't get me wrong, Diddy had the vision to put together Bad Boy. I'm not going to front and take away from that. But literally, he just watered down his artists, So it's kind of like, that's what I believe. I could be wrong. If he was alive, maybe it would have been different. But that's all like conjecture, right? But I think that when it comes to calling him the GOAT, I don't even think Biggie should be like in the top 10, to be quite honest with you. Word. I think a word that we hear a lot on the media, news media, mainstream news media, as well as on the internet, is the term normalize. Yo, I'm not gonna front. When I was young, I didn't think that was a word. I think, to be honest, like when cats was like, yo, normalize this, people be like, yo, that's not even a word. But you hear that word all the time. So, I looked it up. And it means to bring a return to a normal condition or state, right? And it's crazy because I remember I was gonna get Bay to make me that Hydra Punisher shirt. If you ain't read Secret Empire, at one point Punisher shows up, putting a foot on the neck on somebody, like boom, like, yo, hail Hydra, the Punisher. So like, I was like, oh, I want to get that. So I was like bragging about it online, and somebody was like, yo, like, don't normalize Hydra, Nazism, because originally Hydra was like an extension of Nazism, but Marvel retconned that. But anyway, they were like, yo, they normalized that. So like, when did that happen? Like, when did that normalization happen? And then, we can get into that too, but people started using the word normalize a lot. And that, like I said, at one time I thought that word wasn't even a real English word, but they use it now. So, and I will say this though, people use it usually in a negative sense, like, normalizing Nazism, normalizing 45's behavior and everything. So, but it could also be used for positive. Like I was listening to the In the Whole Uprising podcast, and they were talking about how you normalize consent. And I think that's dope because it's funny because I was doing the same thing in my classroom, trying to normalize consent in things outside of sex. So like, is it okay for you to poke me or whatever? So like, is it okay for you to, come into my space? Like, did I give you that consent? So it could be used in a positive way as well. It's just like, I just hear it a lot and I just wanted to talk about that. Word. So I had a lot of people ask me about meditation, and does it work? And let me be honest with you, man. Like, I don't do a lot of that new age stuff. I don't do none of that floating and shit. Like, I don't get down like that. But yes, meditation does work. I know people are like, huh? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that if you meditate, you're gonna float. If you're gonna meditate, like you're gonna find nirvana. I just feel like it's important to take time out of your day to like really center yourself and really like just empty your mind. I know it sounds like some Jedi shit, and I love Jedis, but don't get me wrong on that. I love Star Wars. But you really need to center yourself, really do. And I think, especially in this day and age where we have a lot of stimuli, right? Our mind is cluttered. Like, we have a lot of stuff on our mind, stress and everything. And there's a reason for that. We just, because of technology, it makes things a lot more easier for us. So there's a lot of things that we don't have to do anymore. So we have a lot more space to think about certain things. And then we're consistently bombarded with all kinds of wildness, fake news, social media, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying that social media is bad, but we're just consistently bombarded with stuff and information quickly, right? You got a 24-hour news cycle that you need to really take a time out of your day to really like clean that stuff out, man. I mean, I think that's important. And you ain't got to do it every day. I mean, I think it'd be dope if you could do it every day, right? Most of us don't have that time or that luxury. But if you can, I recommend it. And I remember somebody said something to me. They were like, meditation is difficult. It is not an easy thing. It's not just you humming. The key thing about meditation is that you have to empty your mind. And that right there is hard, right? Now imagine doing that, because think about it. As soon as you sit down and you're not doing anything, things pop in your head, right? Automatically, right? So imagine trying to sit down and do that for an extended amount of time, right? Just think about that. Like, try to sit down right now and just like think of nothing, absolutely nothing. It's difficult, trust me, because as soon as you sit down and you got a moment and you're taking breaths, you're going to be like, oh shit, did I leave the stove on? Oh snap, did I leave something at work? Oh snap, did my kids do their homework? And there's these little things. Those are the things that nag at you, right? But try to do that. When you could do that, then try to take it to the next level. Try to hear your heartbeat. That's hard, right? But if you do these practices, man, like, there's studies that they've done studies on people that do meditation. They learn that they have, lower stress levels, less chances of getting high blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. Because they take a moment of their day to really like, like really just center themselves. So yeah, meditation does work. So I hope that helps in this health segment. Peace.
This is a man's world, but it would mean nothing without. This is a man's world.
Part 3, QBC, sip lime Bacardi. Heavy on the wrist, you blink my ice ring. John Lee Green, get that small Part 3, QBC, sip lime Bacardi.
So in this week's episode on how to approach women, somebody, like, a lot of people will come up to me and they'll ask me, hey, I did this and she rejected me. And, usually they do something that's real creepy. So this week's episode, I want to talk about how you should not be creepy, right? Like, if you're in a store and you see a young woman, like, let's say you're in like in a bookstore, right? Because a bookstore is actually a really good place to meet women, right? But like, if you see her in the front of the store and then like she goes to the back and then you follow her to the back, and then she goes to the middle and then you follow her to the middle, and then she goes to the coffee bar and you go to the coffee bar, and then she goes to the side of the bookstore, then you follow to the side. Don't do that. That's mad creepy. So don't be creepy. Like, if you see her, okay, she might, like, you might have noticed her right now and she might have just moved, then it's okay to just like follow and then, approach them, right? At that point, she might still think you're creepy, but, she was standing in front of you and then she walked away before you could act, right? And when I mean before you can act, I mean, don't stand there 20 minutes and then act. If you, like I said, shoot your shot. But don't follow her around the store. Like, that's mad creepy. Don't do that stuff, right? Like, you know, like, again, I say that the one reason why public transportation is kind of creepy is because, you know, approaching a woman while y'all waiting for public transportation is creepy because you pretty much got to follow them. You know what I mean? Or you probably seen them before, and they might think that you be looking at them. You know, it's just mad creepy. Just don't be creepy, man. Don't be creepy. And that goes for, like, when you do text messages and stuff like that. Don't be creepy. Don't be texting them at 1 a.m. Like, text them at a decent time, right? So, and, you know, and then you might ask me what a good time is to text somebody. We could talk about that some other time. But right now, like, just don't be creepy. You know what I mean? Don't be following them. Don't be, like, breathing over them and stuff like that. Just don't be creepy. If you want somebody to reject you immediately, you be creepy. And I bet you they reject you. But at the same time, being creepy is borderline harassment. So don't do that. And I hope this helps you out. So, like, on Twitter, me and I can't remember her name. We were discussing pages, and it just reminded me of some stuff. My homie Auntie Bay CC _ on Twitter. We talked about pages, and I remember, like, telling my kids about pages, right? And, you know, back then we didn't have cell phones. You know, we used pay phones. You know, you put 25 cents in, you call somebody. You know, I'm 44, so bear with me. And so I told them how it worked. I told my kids, like, yo, you know, it was like a little box you put on your belt or whatever, and you could have it on vibrator mode or beeper mode. And then, like, you would page that person, and then you would leave them a number, and then they would call you back at the number you called them. And it's funny because they looked at it like, man, that is such a useless piece of technology. Why would you use it? You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. I told them how like, you know, it was originally invented for doctors and emergency personnel, so that way they could always get a hold of them no matter where they are, right? So, but, you know, initially it was made for them. You just paged them, and it beeped, and they knew they had to go back to work. So, for the average consumer, you know, you needed a number. And it makes, you know, back then you look at it, it makes sense. You know, we didn't have cell phones, so if you were on the go, if I was driving somewhere or whatever, and you paged me, I would call you back. So, but they're like, why don't you just call that person? Like, and I know they live in a world where, you know, everybody has a cell phone, so everybody's easily accessible. But when I do look back, I do feel like it was a kind of useless piece of technology, right? Yo, word is born. Shout out to Combat Jack, who just revealed last week that he just been diagnosed with colon cancer, man. And, like, dude really inspired me a lot, yo. So, yo, big up to Combat Jack. I don't know him. You know, he's responded to some of my stuff on Twitter. So mad love to him. But, yo, shout out to him and all those people that are fighting the good fight against cancer, particularly the victims of that scourge. Yo, for real, like, it's mad real. A good book to read about cancer is called The Emperor of All Maladies. I forgot the name of the author, but it's a big book, but it's really, really dope. Check it out. It ain't no government conspiracy, it's real talk. So, word is born. Shout out to all of y'all. Peace. So there you have it, party people. Episode 18 is done in the paint. Once again, thank y'all for your support. You can hit me up on Twitter at Omi's Podcast, OMIS Podcast, or just at Dan Trezomi. And if you really want to try to find me, you can just Google Dan Trezomi, DANTRESOMI, and you can probably find me on there. Don't forget the hashtag again. I know we talked about it earlier, but please do. I appreciate it. Yo, take it easy. Be easy, man. And yo, hold it down.